Mexico is full of quirky customs that might leave you scratching your head until you know the reason behind them.
If you've spent time in Mexico, you may have seen people that do things, well, a little unusual.
But for Mexicans, these things are totally normal.
Let's explore some of Mexico's most unique and surprising traditions.
Have you ever been so scared and not know how to calm yourself down? Mexicans have a cure for that, and it's this. This bread is undoubtedly the most popular bread in Mexico. It's the main ingredient for making tortas, sandwiches filled with all sorts of things from carnitas to ham. Basically, if you can eat it, you can make a torta with it.
And if you eat it plain, Mexicans believe it'll calm your nerves after a big scare. Like say you almost got hit by a car or something like that. Someone will hand you a bolillo and say to you, "Tomate un bolillo para el susto," which loosely translates to, eat a piece of bread to calm your nerves.
Maybe 5 years ago, we had an employee that took a tumble down the stairs here at work. And of course they called me, "Señora, somebody fell down the stairs." And I go running, and one of my employees was at the bottom of the staircase. She was totally fine. She had stumbled down. She was sitting there, and of course we helped her and she was fine. And then one of my employees said, "Tenemos que ir a comprar bolillos para el susto." And I said, "What? What do you mean?" And he said, "Tengo que ir a comprar bolillos. I need to go buy bolillos right now. I'll be right back." I said, "Okay." So he runs out and he gets bolillos for everyone. And he said, everybody has to eat a bolillo so that you don't get sick from the scare that you just had. And I thought to myself, wow, this one's unique.
Yeah.
I had never heard of this one before. And I'm not sure how it works or if it works at all, but they all took a bite of their bolillo, and for some reason it made them feel more calm because they had done the tradition. So it's not a medical remedy or anything, but there's something comforting about eating bread after a shock. Like it grounds you, reminds you that everything is gonna be okay.
Yeah. It's like Mexico's version of take a deep breath, but full of carbs.
And let's be honest, who's gonna say no to bread? I mean, I would never say no to a good bolillo I would put butter on it, but for a scare, you're supposed to eat it plain.
So next time you're in Mexico and get scared, forget the deep breaths, just grab a bolillo. If you've ever walked down the street in Mexico, chances are you've encountered a territorial dog that's not too happy to see you.
And if you grew up here or been here a while, you know that there's one simple trick to make them back off every time.
In the States, we might yell, "Get!" or something like that.
Yeah.
Some people even carry mace around. In Mexico, it's not yelling, it's not running, it's this.
What's that? What was that?
It's my imaginary rock.
Oh.
We'll explain.
That's the move. The second you do this, Mexican dogs immediately rethink their life choices.
Yeah, all you have to do is pretend like you're going down to the floor and picking up a rock. Just this kind of motion, and it sends the dogs running the other way.
Well, it's probably because in the past, people have thrown rocks at them, right? Or something at them.
Yeah.
And they know that, getting down and grabbing something and pretending like you're gonna throw it means I better run.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt that every dog has been a victim of a rock at some point in his life here in Mexico.
Or a shoe or something being thrown at him, yeah.
And if the dog still doesn't get it, just go the extra step and pretend like you're throwing this imaginary rock at the dog, and for sure he'll run away.
It's like a universal Mexican dog language. They just know.
Because let's be honest, at some point someone actually threw a rock at the stray dog. So now just even pretending is enough.
Yeah. So if you ever find yourself face to face with an aggressive dog, don't run, don't panic, just pretend to grab a rock from the ground and hope the dog was raised in Mexico. In Mexico, there's a well-known tradition for those looking for love, and it involves this: San Antonio de Padua.
San Antonio de Padua is the patron saint of lost things, but many people also turn to him when they're searching for a partner.
And to get his help, they do something unusual. They place his statue upside down.
The belief is that by flipping him over, you're encouraging him to work a little faster in answering your request. Once the person finds love, they set him back right side up as a sign of gratitude.
In some cases, people even take it a step further by placing San Antonio in a glass of water until their wish is granted. Why do you think that drowning him makes him work faster?
Well, you're not drowning him, you're putting him under pressure. You want him to act quickly so that he grants you your wish and you can take him out of the water and all is good. It's a way of showing devotion, and while it's not an official religious practice, in fact, the Catholic Church discourages it, it's something that has been passed down through generations.
Whether or not it works, many people see it as a sign of faith and patience. So if you ever notice an upside down San Antonio in someone's home, now you know why. If you've ever walked around Mexico, especially in markets or small food stalls, you might have seen something like this: plastic bags filled with water hanging from ceilings or doorways.
At first, it might look like some kind of strange decoration, but actually, it's a traditional trick to keep flies away. And I remember seeing these hanging all over the place when we go to markets or restaurants even.
Or at the beach.
Yeah.
I've seen them at the beach.
Yeah. Had no idea what that was for the longest time.
Yeah, I mean, we asked at some point and someone said that it keeps flies away, but I'm not so sure if this one works.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever tried it? Has it worked for you? The idea is that the water refracts light in a way that confuses the flies, making them stay away. Some say the reflections look like moving objects to them, and since flies have very sensitive vision, they avoid the area.
There's no scientific proof that it works, but you'll see it everywhere. Street vendors, home kitchens, and even some restaurants. And for many people, that's reason enough to keep the tradition alive.
It's a simple, inexpensive solution that whether it works or not, it's a tradition that has stood the test of time.
So next time you see plastic bags filled with water hanging outside a home or a food stall, now you know, it's not just random decoration. If you've ever walked through a Mexican town or a town anywhere in Latin America, really, you might have seen people casually making the sign of the cross as they pass in front of a church.
For many Mexicans, it's a way to acknowledge the presence of God and ask for protection, even if they're just passing by.
Some people do it every single time they pass a church, whether they're walking, in a car, or even in the bus.
And it's not just for churches. You'll also see people do this in front of roadside shrines dedicated to saints or loved ones who have passed away.
Do you do it ever?
I grew up doing this, yes. So every time we'd pass a church, I would do the sign of the cross. My mother actually really ingrained it in me that before I get into the shower, I do the sign of the cross. You've seen me do that many times.
Yeah.
And it was always a big part of my life growing up, doing that. And now that I'm older, I find myself not doing it as much as I used to. In fact, I was just thinking about this because of the topic of our video and if I still do it before I get into the shower, and I've actually stopped doing it. I don't know why.
Gotta be careful.
I don't know.
You're gonna slip in the shower.
I might slip in the shower.
It's one of those little things that might seem automatic, but for many, it's a meaningful gesture of faith.
So if you've ever noticed someone doing this, now you'll know. It's not just a habit, it's a tradition. Another one that we have is one that my mom used to do. My mom actually was not from Mexico. My father's from Mexico, but my mother was from Nicaragua. And if she ever got an itch on her palm, she would scratch it, and that meant that money was coming your way. So she would scratch it, and then she would put it into, like fictitiously put it into her bra. And then she would scratch it and do it again, and she would say, "Hay que ponerlo en el buche," which would mean, like, what do you think that means exactly?
Keep it under wraps.
Keep it under wraps. And so scratch the itchy palm and put it into your bra, and that would somehow bring you money. I don't know if this is a Nicaraguense thing or if this is a Latin American thing. So if any of you have ever heard of this one,
or a Mexican
thing, if any of you have ever heard of this one, please let us know, because I'm curious. My mom used to do it all the time as a kid, and now I do it too.
And what happens is if a man gets an itchy palm, where does he keep it? Under wraps?
I don't know. I never encountered that one, so I have no idea.
Okay.
Tamales are one of Mexico's most beloved dishes, but did you know that there are a ton of beliefs about how to make them properly?
And we're not just talking about getting the masa ratio right. There are actually superstitions that people swear by.
For example, before starting, some people make the sign of the cross over the masa to bless it. The idea is that this ensures the tamales turn out well.
But who helps make the tamales is just as important. According to tradition, pregnant women and sad people, believe it or not, should avoid the kitchen because their energy might make the tamales cook unevenly.
And once the tamales are cooking, whatever you do, don't open the lid too soon. If you peek, people say tamales will get jealous, se encelan, and cook unevenly.
But what if they take forever to cook? There's a saying that tamales that take too long are haciéndose de rogar, basically playing hard to get.
And some people believe the fix for this is to literally kick the pot to get them to hurry up. That sounds dangerous.
Yeah. Especially if the pot is being cooked up above, you have to get above it. And for the final touch, in some regions, people tie a strip of corn husk around the pot handles in the shape of a cross to make sure the tamales cook properly.
So next time you make tamales, be careful who you invite into the kitchen.
Which of these traditions have you heard of? Do you know any others? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye, everybody.